Welcome, everybody. Good morning. John Zegar. How is everybody? It's a beautiful morning here on the eastern slope. Kind of some really high, thin, cirrus clouds, but they're just left over from the night. And they'll be clearing here real quickly. Beautiful, beautiful morning. 66 degrees. I think when I got up it was like 59. So it was a really cool evening. It got kind of chilly right around 2:30 or 3:30. I know I woke up for a short while there and it was kind of chilly. I just am leaving the gym. Got into the gym. Made it to the coffee shop by 4:45. Got that taken care of. Got the gym finished. And I didn't drive back over to the park I normally go to. I'm actually in the parking lot of the gym. They have a high-rise parking garage. I don't usually go in there unless it's winter time. During the spring, summer, and fall, I stay out here in the parking lot. So I might move around a little bit. I've got the truck running, and we may move around a little bit before the podcast is over. Last night was spectacular. Last night, I should say last evening. Last evening was outstanding. It was unexpected. It was, what's the word Dr. Joe uses? It was mystic. It was a mystic experience. I have a collar on my shirt this morning, you guys. So the earbuds are rubbing against it. I hope it doesn't create too much noise. But I don't think it will. I'll keep the collar down for a while. So last night was kind of a mystic experience. I found myself a street that I really like. I've been there a few times before, and it's heavily treed with mature trees, kind of several different kinds. And the neighborhood is really quiet, serene. There's no noise, no wind. And these beautiful architecturally designed, I guess they're office buildings. I'm not quite sure what they are, but that's what they appear. Kind of a southwest sort of appeal. And it's not bright and sunny in there because it's got a canopy, right? And green grass, just beautiful manicured green grass everywhere. And the neighborhood around it is a pretty affluent neighborhood with fairly nice homes. I've worked in there with a couple different people who own homes in there, and they're just very pleasant, laid back. I actually ran into one guy, I talked to a couple, elderly couple riding their bike, a lady taking a walk with her glasses on. She had dark glasses on. Everybody just seemed really serene. So I'm sitting there reading my book, right? Because it's a great place to go over and read. Here's a sidebar. You know me and sidebars. I love sidebars. Go find some place that you really love to read. And don't make it your house. And don't make it your neighborhood or your garage or something like that. Go find a neighborhood like I'm describing this morning, where it's just conducive for you to sit in your car. You're not bothering anybody. You're not breaking any laws. There's nothing that says you can't park on a street and read a book. You're not breaking into anything. You're not casing anything out. You're reading a book. And you're in an environment that's conducive to you reading and staying in the present moment, the eternal now. Follow me so far? Okay. So here's the next step. I'll just tell you what happened to me, and then you figure out the next step for you based on what I'm trying to help you with this morning. Truck going by. I'm reading and enjoying myself, and I have all the windows down and the sunroof open and the back window open. It's just very pleasant. And all of a sudden, I notice the tree right next to me. And then I notice the tree 30 feet, 20 feet from it. You know, on the curb, on my right side, passenger side. And I look straight up through my sunroof, and I notice that the branches and the tree limbs and leaves are all intertangled. Both trees are intertangled. And I started feeling, this is where it gets a little mystical, you guys. This is the cool part. So I started sensing the vibration. You know, they're living things. They're no different than we are, right? They communicate with one another. It's like how sunflowers, you know, when there's no light, they turn towards each other and actually touch each other to exchange energy. You guys, this isn't weird. This is not weird. This is called neuroscience. This is how you function. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Stay in the present, the current, the eternal now. Don't put yourself thinking about what's happened in the past. Don't put yourself fantasizing the future. You can design the future, but don't fantasize the future. But I sensed some energy. I sensed vibration. I sensed frequency. What I was sensing was, communication. And I just kind of dismissed it, because I was enjoying my book. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. that was pretty pleasant noticing that. And they're right here, and it's like they're looking over my shoulder through the sunroof down reading the book with me. This is not weird, you guys. This is where we're supposed to be. So I go back to reading, and I'm just engrossed in my book. What's the book? Okay, you want to know the book. You Are the Placebo, Making Your Mind Matter, Dr. Joe Dispenza. All right. Get any one of his books and you just read it over and over and over again. Tells you how to live life, you guys. So I'm back reading and enjoying it and trying to understand, different aspects of what he's saying and blah, blah, blah. And it's very stimulating for me to be reading the book. And my eyes go up and I start noticing bushes lining the street and trees lining the street and buildings that actually are dug down into the ground. Think of Southwest architecture. Sometimes you have homes and different kinds of buildings that are actually built into the ground, partially, not completely, but partially. And I just go, wow, that's cool. And I go back to reading. And then it's like all of a sudden it's a little orchestra. Now this is where it gets a little weird. This is where it gets a little weird. First of all, the night and the weather and the sky, it's a perfect 10. This whole block is a perfect 10. This whole evening is a perfect 10. The Creator, the Source, the greater intelligence, could not have designed a more perfect evening, street, block, neighborhood where I was last night. It's impossible. It can't be any more perfect than what it was. So like I said, this is where it gets weird. All of a sudden it's like, and I'm imagining this, no, there wasn't any music playing. No, there wasn't any trumpets or blah, blah, blah. It was like an orchestra was playing to me as I sat in my truck with everything open, reading my book, and now my eyes were gazing out at the street, the sides of the street, the yards next to the buildings, the trees, the bushes, the shrubbery, the grass, the animals, the rabbits, the squirrels, the birds. It was like everything became alive. And these two trees right here next to me were the maitre d'. And there was a symphony going on with all the living things. And the symphony, now think about this, you guys. This isn't like, just listen. The symphony was like the vibrations that you put out. The symphony was like the vibrations that you put out 24 hours a day. Why can't that tree? It's a living thing. It has vibrations. Why can't those bushes? Why can't those shrubbery? Why can't the grass? Why can't the little animals? Blah, 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 blah. Why can't all of that have vibration? And it was starting to vibrate. And there's a frequency. There is a frequency when you have the vibration. All right? You're following me so far. You're with me so far. So the orchestra that I'm listening to is the vibration of all living things in front of me on that block, and the frequency that they're playing at. Now here's where it gets even cooler. And then, if you put that orchestra of the frequency and the vibrations that I'm sensing, feeling, being a part of, now all of a sudden, there's energy. Every living thing has energy, correct? All right. So now I'm picking up even more on the energy of this block. And it's not just one block. I mean, I can see down 3 or 4 blocks, so and I can see where the buildings are. You know, they just don't go down one block; they go down several blocks. And there's a canopy going down all the way, and then way down at the end, you can see kind of where the nicer homes or neighborhood, kind of starts. This is a living, I don't know what word to use, so I'll just say it's a living aquarium, so to speak. And it became alive, and it woke up. And it started communicating with me. Now, if you think that's wrong, you're listening to the wrong podcast, and please go on and do whatever it is you do. You probably don't need to be here and enjoy this. But here's the part that I guess I'm trying to communicate, is that we are, now when I say we, I mean all living things. All living things have a vibration, have a frequency, and have energy, and we're all enmeshed. We're all one. We all have a divinity. We all have a greater intelligence in us. And we all communicate. And, all right, here we go. We're going to dig into some neuroscience now for a minute. If you listen to yesterday's podcast, please go back and listen to yesterday's podcast so today's podcast makes sense to you. We're now emitting positive, healthy hormones. Remember yesterday? Oxytocin. Remember oxytocin? Oxytocin is, for the simplest way to understand it, it's the love hormone. It's the one that makes you feel really good. It's just a really nice, positive hormone that we as humans have, and we don't always, use that hormone very much. It doesn't come out all the time. Oh, when you meet somebody, for the first while it's there, but then it goes away. So, but remember we talked about the oxytocin yesterday. That's what was going on in front of me as I'm reading my book, as I'm interacting, as I'm enmeshed with all these living things that are part of me and me part of them. We had oxytocin being released in me. Not a little bit, but great amounts were being dumped into my system. What does that do? Do you remember? Have you gone back? Have you listened to yesterday's podcast? Don't do this half-ass. If you're going to listen to my crap half-ass, don't even listen. What I'm telling you is the formula that's going to keep you disease-free. So the oxytocin pumps out what? Nitric oxide. You're not alive if you don't have nitric oxide being produced, and hopefully often enough and in large enough amounts. What does it do? What does it do? It dilates all the veins and arteries and the big valves in your heart and all the big arteries that are flushing the blood. It dilates everything. It opens everything up. It goes along with oxytocin. You now can't have a heart attack. If you get to that spot I talked about yesterday, that sweet spot, like hitting a tennis ball, hitting a golf ball, the sweet spot. If you get there, this is what happens chemically to your body, which causes the chemistry reaction and the biological reaction inside your body. You now have an immunity system that you're up-regulating genes that are strengthening your health. You can't have a stroke. You cannot have a stroke when you're at the sweet spot, the eternal now that I'm talking about, the sweet spot. Our lives should be lived as if you're on that block that I just described eloquently every single day. Now, one step further. There's a lot of stress. We've talked about this a zillion times. 70-90% of people live in stress every single day. They're all in denial. It's all cortisol and adrenaline, and it's just anger and hate and bitterness and resentment, and blah 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 blah. When you hit the sweet spot, that is what you've got to have when you're interacting with people. What's the best way to describe this? What I just described, and the feelings and the emotions and the chemicals and everything, which is straight subconscious, you guys. Last night, sitting on that street was you were in the operating system. I could change anything I wanted in my limiting belief system. I was in the operating system. That's where you need to be 24/7, 365 days. And that's how we need to interact with each other. Last part, and then I'll shut up and you guys can go do whatever it is you do. The other part of what happened last night, subconsciously, is that I ended up, boy, and I could do another whole podcast on just this one. I ended up subconsciously designing my future. I ended up designing the future me. I ended up designing the future me. Free of cortisol, free of adrenaline, free of stress, in the eternal now. I was nobody, at no place, and there was no time. God bless everybody. Take care of one another, and I'll look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.